Hey everybody. So I'm coming on to do the part two for the polygamous relationships, a deep dive into the emotional impact of these unions. This is part two. So I'm going to go ahead and get right on into it. The question that I have at this time is how do these women generally feel about one another in these polygamous relationships? Go back and check out part one if you have not seen it so you can see what is the driving force for these connections to come together, what causes the man to seek out these relationships, what emotional state he's in when he seeks out these relationships, as well as the woman who he connects with initially, and how this thing just kind of spreads from there, how it expands from there. So, how do the women generally feel about one another? Because that is important. The environment in which you are creating a community, how those people feel about one another internally, the energy that is being projected by those people is very, very important when it comes to building a foundation or building a community of people, and so a lot of people in the conscious community, they say, well, it's all about building family, it's all about building a community, it's all about taking it back to the roots. But if you have a bunch of unhealed people together, then that is just one big mess of karmic chaos that's going to bring about a lot of very heavy and hard lessons. And the children who are born through those unions are going to have to eyewitness that. And so while on the surface it might look very glamorous and they make it look good through these YouTube platforms or on television shows, I'm seeing that energetically so far it's not all that it's cracked up to be. These people, many of them are putting on a front for the world, but emotionally, behind closed doors, they're hurting. They're in a lot of pain. So, how do these women generally feel about one another in these polygamous relationships? How do they generally feel about one another in the polygamous relationships? Okay, so I got two cards here. All right, so I have the Nine of Cups in reverse and the Nine of Pentacles in the reverse. So two nines here. The Nine of Cups in reverse is lack of wish fulfillment. It's lack of happiness, okay? Um, Nine of Pentacles in reverse is that energy of being codependent. I think they end up feeling codependent on one another after a certain amount of time, but they're unhappy at the same time. They're not able to create happiness within themselves. And they may even look at the other person as being codependent on the connection. We already saw that the initial connection is conjoined by a female who is seeking material stability, okay? Coming in with a lot of insecurities, but with the hopes of creating a foundation for herself. So they end up being codependent within these relationships, but very, very unhappy, okay? The Tower is here in the reverse. So that's that energy of trying to hold on, trying to keep everything from crumbling or crashing down, like this really bad, you know, breakdown of this structure. But like I told you all from the very beginning, it's not established on a solid foundation, established on a very weak foundation. And so these women, they see one another as being codependent, unhappy, and barely hanging on by a thread to this polygamous relationship. Yeah, so how they feel about one another. Once again, a lot of jealous energy. This came out for the first reading, part one. A lot of jealous energy. especially coming from like the initial woman. You have two people initially. So that woman who came in with that man to begin the polygamous relationship before the other women joined in was already very insecure coming into the relationship with that man. They jumped in head first. They ended up together. He ends up having a sexual addiction where he's constantly being unfaithful in a relationship, constantly asking for second chances. The woman ends up giving in because out of her own insecurity, she's not able to walk away from the connection, but she allows him to bring in another woman in hopes that it will keep him with her. It will keep her in a relationship that's ultimately not going to crumble like the ones have in the past. And so she feels that it's going to allow her to stay with this man who's emotionally unavailable to her, because we saw the King of Cups came out in reverse in part 1. And so this woman is already very insecure from the jump before the other women even come into the door. So then you got the other woman that joins in. Now they're all jealous of one another, but the one who was there first feels like she should have a position that sits higher than the other women that have come along after her, largely because of the amount of time that she's been there. She was the first one, and she's been there the longest. And so she feels like she should be placed into a superior position. But as you saw in part 1, the spark, the sexual connection, ends up becoming practically non-existent between herself and her partner once these other women come in, because there's a lot of past pain that she's still dealing with before the women came, as well as before she got with this man. Unhealed wounds that continue to get worse and worse and worse. And so there's a lot of jealous energy that they have amongst one another, largely codependent on one another, because I guess once they begin to pool their finances, let's say you got a man with 5 different women, and each woman might have a job at, maybe have, a job that might pay them about maybe $9 to $10 an hour, maybe $15, $16 an hour. So they go and they purchase a large home. Maybe they have multiple cars. All of them come together to make sure that everybody's bills are paid or whatnot. But at the same time, now you've created this codependency on this false sense of security. Many of these people that come in insecure from the jump, they end up putting on this facade for the world, because now you have to maintain this image. You can't let the world know that you're miserable, because you already had to prove a point. Most people are in opposition. Most people question these types of connections, okay? Most people feel like, okay, how is that really working out? And so these connections, they come together into the world. They make it seem as if, oh, everything is all good. We're living good. We're building this community for ourselves financially. We're growing and we all love each other. But behind closed doors, it's a lot of jealousy. It's a lot of codependent energy. Okay. It's a lot of unhappiness and barely hanging on by a thread, trying to avoid this tower moment, which is inevitable. It's going to happen whether they try to avoid it from happening or not. And so this is the 8 of Cups here. They want to walk away. Many of these women, they want to walk away. How they feel about each other is that they hope that somebody in the relationship will walk away. I feel like it's this process of elimination, because if it's all centered around this one man who they're vying for his attention, they're all fighting for his affection out of their own insecurities, then they hope, they look at one another as if, I hope that you end up walking away. We got 2 8s here, we got 2 9s here, and we have a 10 here. So it's this progression of energy that's building up to ultimately get to this 10, which is the tower, okay? The destruction of this false foundation. And so we have here the 4 of Swords, okay, as well as the Temperance. And so it's this energy of trying to heal the situation. I feel like it's this cycle of trying to heal after breakdown. So I feel like as many tower moments that take place in these situations, and they try to heal, they try to, fix things, they try to maintain their temperament, but ultimately it's just not, it doesn't look good. Let me pull one more in terms of how these women feel about one another. And then I'm going to move on to the next question, which is the sexual impact that this has on the women. So how do these women feel about one another? So what we have here is the Six of Pentacles in the reverse. So they feel like there's no real reciprocity here. They feel like there's no real balance when it comes to who's giving and who's contributing what to the relationship, okay? So there's something that's very off balance about that. I feel like I said, it's largely financially driven as to why many of these women end up in these connections in the first place for security, but they end up completely not factoring in how it's going to affect them mentally, spiritually, emotionally in the long run. And so they come in with the wrong intentions, with the wrong motives in these relationships. And the man is already unhealed. The man is already dealing with issues. We saw in part one that he ends up feeling emotionally, he feels stuck. Emotionally, he feels trapped in these relationships, especially once these women begin to bear children. And so we have here the Six of Swords. This is all about moving on. They feel they want to move on, okay? These women do not really like each other. They're jealous of one another. They're in opposition to one another. But they find themselves trying to hold on by a thread to keep this thing from crashing down because they become codependent on the financial security that this polygamous relationship brings to them, all of them putting into the pot here. And so they have codependent issues. They have lack mentality issues. And so they fear that if they walk away, that they're going to end up with nothing, or they're going to have to start all over again. And so, but the Four of Wands came out in the reverse. This is a very unstable foundation, an unstable and unhappy household. So let's move on. Let's see. What is the sexual impact that these polygamous relationships have on the women? Then we'll see what the impact has on the man, because obviously if he's coming into these situations driven by his sexual energy, driven by sexual addictions, but wanting to have his way, not wanting to release these women, but reassuring them that somehow his sexual addiction is cured as long as they open themselves up to allowing him to have multiple women, then it has to impact him in a way too, you know. But let's see the sexual impact on the women in these polygamous relationships. How is it affecting them? Sexual impact on the women. Okay. So what came out is the Seven of Cups in the reverse and then the Fool. Okay. Now this Seven of Cups in the reverse, what I'm hearing right now is that the Seven of Cups, because in the upright, this is a man who obviously has options, okay? It's almost like he can wake up any day and say, okay, I got 7 cups in front of me, which is representation of all his women that he has in his polygamous relationship. And he gets to just pick and choose. And he's just kind of standing there like, no, not really. Not you today. No, I think I want that one, but maybe that one. This is coming out in the reverse. The sexual impact that it has on them is that they feel like they're not being chosen. Okay? The Fool is here. So it's that energy of maybe jumping, starting all over again. Starting all over again, trying to recreate this sexual connection with this man. But there's definitely something here about feeling as if they're not being chosen. Feeling as if they're not really an option. Let me see. What is the Seven of Cups in the reverse? So the Seven of Cups in the reverse is the Chariot, and then we have the Lovers here. I feel like it's this energy of having to recreate the sexual energy between themselves and this masculine, having to start again to reawaken the flame over and over again. So by the time he gets done with his rotation between these women, if they're not having like groupie sex, then if he's just having sex with them individually, they feel like they have to recreate the spark all over again once he decides to pick them, though. Okay, because he pretty much, I feel like the man pretty much controls the narrative of who he's going to be with on any given day. And then, yes, this energy with the Fool of kind of starting all over again, trying to reawaken the passion. So the sexual impact of these polygamous connections on the women. So we have the Four of Wands and the Nine of Wands. So I feel like it gives them this, once he does come around to picking them, it does give them this zeal and this excitement again, because I feel like with all of the energy that has come out prior, it's almost like the sexual energy, once this man gives them his attention on an individual scale sexually, it makes them feel special. It makes them feel wanted. It makes them feel like the passion is still there and like they can balance this thing out again. And it makes them want to still hold on to the relationship. It makes them want to still stick it out. And so it gives them this energy to start all over again. It's almost like the spark that he reawakens in them through the sexual connection makes them feel like that's the driving force of the relationship. So I feel like this is strongly driven by really sexual connections. I don't feel like it has really anything to do with love. It's sex and financial stability that keeps these relationships going until they ultimately come crashing down. So let me pull from this deck to see the sexual impact on the women. Then I want to see how this is affecting the man. What is the sexual impact on the women in these polygamous relationships? But yeah, it reawakens the spark between the man and whichever woman he just so happens to pick in that moment, okay? So let's see. So this says losing faith and ability to heal. So losing faith in their ability to heal in the relationship. So it's like prior to him choosing them, whatever day of the week he chooses this particular person, they're losing faith. They're feeling like they're not wanted. They're feeling like the spark and the passion is not there. But once he comes in, they reawaken that. And so they feel like they have the driving force to be able to heal the relationship. Then we have here, keeps one bound to demonic energy. So I feel like the sexual energy is very low vibrational in nature. This is not like it's a powerful sexual energy where they're using this to actually create, because you got people that's doing it from a space of insecurity. They're doing it from a space of jealousy. You know, you have this one woman who maybe she's the last one on the list for him to choose. Maybe he chooses her very rarely because there's so much of an emotional disconnect that the sexual energy is just not there. And then finally he comes in, you know, this person, the woman might be feeling like she's losing faith in the relationship and that there's no healing it. And then suddenly the spark is reawakened as soon as he decides to pick her. And so now that gives her the driving force to want to stay and feeling like things are solid. But that is someone who is largely insecure. And so let me pull one more and then I'm going to move on to the man. Look at that. I just said low vibrations. It's very low vibrational sex that they're having. And so that's why you have keeps one bound to a demonic energy, because you're welcoming in the wrong types of spirits. These soul connections are not happening, like I said, from a space of high vibrational sex. It's low vibrational sex. It's driven off of ego. It's driven off of insecurity. It's driven off of desperation to a degree, especially for the woman who feels like she's not being chosen. So let's see. How is the sex impacting the man? How is the sexual relationships within this polygamous connection of impacting the man? Okay, so let's see. How does this impact the man? The sexual connection within the polygamous relationships. How is it affecting him? Okay, so I got two cards here. So I have the Ten of Swords and I have the Six of Cups. Ten of Swords and Six of Cups. I feel like, because we saw from part one that the man comes in with a very negative perception of monogamous relationships. He's been hurt, he's been wounded, and I mentioned that these wounds, they go back beyond his own connections. They go into his childhood and what he eyewitnessed in terms of watching other people in relationships. So he has a very negative perception of love. And so I feel like the sex for him, it does something to, I feel like he sees it as being healing for his past pains, the past betrayals that he's been through, because the Ten of Swords is all about betrayal. Okay, many betrayals that you might have had, that you might have gone through. And then the Six of Cups takes it back to childhood. Okay, it takes it back to those childhood memories. And so it's almost as if he uses sex as a form of, it's a false sense of emotional fulfillment for him in that moment, because he doesn't know how to love. You already saw in part one that his heart is blocked off, so he's not emotionally available. And so for him, sex is the emotions that he is driven by. And so I feel like he's able to use the sex of multiple women within these unions, these polygamous unions, to somehow cure his past childhood wounds. How is the sex impacting the man? Five of Cups. So even though he has sex with these women, like I said, it gives him this false sense of healing these wounds. But then once he's done, once the thrill is gone, once he has ejaculated, once he has made his rounds, he goes right back into feeling this pain all over again. So it's not healing him at all. He's just burying his pain, but the pain is not going anywhere. He's covering it up. He's covering it up through these sexual connections, but the pain is not really healing. That's why I said in part one, you end up starting off these connections with open wounds that have not been addressed, that have not been healed. They've just been suppressed and hidden. And so the connections come together, these polygamous unions come together with a group of unhealed people that are just further putting pain and reopening, just ripping open these wounds more and more. And so there's a lot of betrayal that ends up happening in these connections. And he tries to use his sexual energy to heal the pain, his pain as well as the pain that he's causing these women. But ultimately, after it's all said and done, he's still hurt. He's still grieving. That part is not changing, okay? Ooh, that flew way over there, y'all. Let me see. Okay, so we have here Judgment. Okay, Judgment is what has come out here. So I feel like it's this energy of trying to revive things, okay? After all of this betrayal, after all of this pain, he uses the sex as a way of trying to reawaken. Like I said, I saw that from the females when it comes to the sexual energy. They are in this energy of feeling as if things are not healing. Like everything is, they have no faith in the relationship. But then once the man comes in and creates the sexual bond, somehow it takes them back to the beginning. Somehow it takes them back to when things were great. And so they feel like it heals the situation, like it reawakens, and it gives them a second chance, but they still end up grieving when it's all said and done because they're not addressing any wounds. They're still living very much so on the surface here. Yeah, look at this. We got the Two of Swords, which is being blinded to what's happening around you. You don't even see things clearly. You're at a crossroads. You don't know which direction to go in because you don't really. These men come into these relationships expecting that this is going to cure the pain, because now they have all of these other men who are out here giving them applause, telling them that, oh, you the man, you got all these women, he got it like that. On the surface, he's putting up a facade. Behind all of those women is a man who is broken, and he's surrounded by women who are broken. And so it further perpetuates the brokenness amongst all of these people together. We have the Knight of Wands in reverse. So the Knight of Wands in reverse is that scattered energy. It's jumping too fast. It's seeking thrill without direction. And this is why he's blindfolded, because it's just all about passion and thrill here. So ultimately, the sexual impact that it has on the man is that it is a temporary patch up for himself, for his own wounds, and a temporary patch up for the women that he's connected with in these relationships to make them feel as if they can reawaken or revive things again. So now I want to see, how is this affecting the children? How are the children impacted by polygamous relationships? Because ultimately, many children are created from these unions. So how are they impacted by these relationships? Because if you're raising children it's already hard having children with two parents that are unhealed and unhappy. But imagine having children with multiple adults who are unhealed and unhappy. That's even more traumatic and detrimental on the mental health and the spiritual development of that child. And so, how are children affected by these polygamous relationships? That's too many cards. Let me see. How are the children? All right. So what I have coming out here, I have the Sun, and then I have the Four of Pentacles in the reverse. I feel like for a child, with the Sun coming out, that's a good energy. They feel happy. I guess they feel happy to have so many people surrounding them, because we do have the Three of Cups here. So I guess they feel like they have a sense of family, a sense of community. Four of Pentacles in the reverse is that energy of being open. Go lay down, baby. So let me see. How are the children affected by these unions? Children are so innocent. It's like it's this energy of maybe they just feel just happy to have a lot of people around. Happy to have a large circle of people that they can communicate with or express themselves to. So we have the Empress in the reverse, though. So the Empress in the reverse, this would be the mother who is unbalanced, the mother who lacks self-love, the mother who is emotionally unavailable. So, now I see. It's this energy of, like, let's say the one specific child who's surrounded by multiple women. If their mother in particular is insecure, or she's not emotionally available to them because of whatever it is she's going through internally, it's like they have this larger sense of security because they have other women that surrounds them that can show them the love and affection that maybe their mother is lacking or not able to give. And so I guess it makes up for that aspect of things. when she's not in her right energy or in her balanced energy, the child feels like that sense of community gives them the opportunity to receive that love from the other women who are in the polygamous relationship. How are the children affected by polygamous relationships? Let's see. So we have the Eight of Wands in the reverse again. This is the third time that this card has come out in the reverse. I think they sense the jealousy amongst these women. This is about no forward movement here. I think the children pick up on the energy that there's a strong possibility that things are going to come crashing down because of the instability of these people emotionally. And, you know, with the Empress in the reverse, I feel like this will be the mother of the child or of the children who is not in alignment within herself. The children pick up on this jealous energy that their mother carries towards the other women. And so they feel like ultimately this is not going to move forward. Something about it, you know, they can pick up on that jealous energy. Children are like sponges, you know, they sense all of these things. Yeah, because the moon is here. They sense all of these things. They can sense these deep emotions that are not being expressed, that maybe the adults in the home feel like is being hidden, because the moon is usually at nighttime. So they feel like these things are hidden in the dark, but these children are highly sensitive, and so they pick up on the energy of the mother who's not happy, who's largely insecure, who's emotionally unavailable. And so they seek out this attention, they seek out this affection from the other women who are in the union, and they may find it there at times, okay, especially if maybe on a good day they're up, and so they're able to provide this affection for the child. But they see behind that there's something else hidden, because we got the sun and the moon coming out, so nothing is hidden. The children actually see it very clearly. Okay, it's very clear to them what's going on. It's very clear to them that there's a lot of jealousy here. It's very clear, look at this, y'all. It's very clear to them that this man who is their father is just in this energy of being confused, just kind of picking and choosing what he wants. But ultimately, the Ten of Pentacles is in the reverse. This came out in the part one at the very beginning in terms of what drives the man towards these polygamous relationships. And so it all goes right back around again. It all circles right back around to the source. He did not have a good childhood growing up. He did not see stable partnerships and connections growing up. And this is what he ultimately shows to his children. But it's heightened times 10, or it's heightened times 5, it's heightened times 3, however many women is involved in this who are all broken and jealous of one another. These children have to experience this even more so, because you have more people involved who are unhealed. And so they watch their father in this energy of just kind of picking and choosing, and they watch their mother in this energy of being unbalanced and emotionally unavailable and jealous. And so ultimately, this is the energy that it provides for these children: an unstable foundation that, you know, they sense and they feel that it's not going to be cohesive for long. They're always anticipating that an ending is going to happen. I feel like they try to keep the energy light. They do have this exciting energy of having multiple people around them, because children love attention. Children love to have multiple people showing them affection and attention, but ultimately they want it from their mother. And the Empress in reverse, when we're talking about the child, they're not receiving it from their mother. They're receiving it from other women who are playing the role of being their mother, if they are emotionally balanced enough to provide it for them on any given day or week or whatever. But they see their father as being very confused and just lacking direction. And so let me just pull really quickly for the common outcome. What is the most common outcome with these polygamous relationships? And I'm going to close out, and I hope that this message was able to bring some light for you all, especially if you are the type of person that's seeking knowledge and you want to go back into your organic state in terms of where you came from initially and what your ancestors did. Just know that not everything that your ancestors did was healthy for them. And so therefore you have to do what's right for you. Don't just base it off of what the conscious community is saying, because many of them are unhealed souls who just come in with a wealth of knowledge, but they're not utilizing that knowledge to heal themselves. And so they do these things with an expectation based on how people are going to view them, but it's really not bringing fulfillment or happiness to them, is what I'm saying. And so just consider that. Consider what is coming out in this message and in part one, energetically, what is being revealed to you all versus what they're saying to you when the cameras start rolling, okay? So what is usually the outcome of these polygamous connections? What is the most common outcome here? Look at that. The 9 of Swords. The most common outcome is pain, sleepless nights, grieving, depression. Right behind that is the Chariot in the reverse. The Chariot in the reverse is no forward movement, no success here, okay? The most common outcome right behind that we see in the 10 of Pentacles in the reverse all over again. The family structure is not cohesive. So as much effort as they put in, feeling as though they're creating a community for themselves because it's strongly driven by what we can do together, how we can bring the stuff, provide financial wealth or abundance by putting everything together. And we're going back to the roots. We're going back to what our ancestors did, which a lot of this is, they say that this was the tradition of the Africans back in the day. But not every black person in America believes that their ancestors is African, okay? Many black people in America believe that their ancestors are the true native Indians, okay? But regardless of what you believe, whether you're black, white, whatever your race is, Latino, just know that not everything that your ancestors did was right, okay? There's many things that, now we're in a new age. We're in the age of Aquarius. Go with what your intuition tells you, not what you feel pressure to believe in or to do because you have someone that's from the conscious community saying, well, you're still mentally enslaved. You're still thinking like those who enslaved you by wanting to be in a monogamous relationship with just yourself and another partner. That's not normal. That's not natural. But what we're seeing here energetically is that this is far from natural, because if you're not able to heal within the connection, if you're not able to love and to have compassion and empathy within whatever connections you build, then that is actually in opposition to your nature. Because your nature, you as a child of the Most High God, you want to be able to freely love. You want to be able to be freely expressive. You want to be able to grow and expand and be happy and to be able to express these emotions in front of your children and, to be the best version of yourself. You want these things. That is your nature. What's in opposition to your nature is when these things are withheld from you. But because these people are so overly focused in on their carnal nature, they're so centered around the root and sacral chakra energy, their lower chakras, in a negative way, materialism and sexually driven, they end up starting the foundation off very unstable, because it's always about as within, so without. The foundation that you have created within yourself is the foundation that you will create external to you. And so if you have one man who comes into, one man who is unhealed, who comes into union with multiple women, he's going to attract unhealed women to him, first of all. So he comes into union with multiple women who are unhealed. Then what you end up having is one big unhealed mess. And you produce children who are now having to be in the midst of this, but this came out in the reverse. All of these children who should be happy between, their parents, they're not, okay, because the foundation was never solid from the get-go. What is the outcome? This is what I have here. The outcome, and I'm going to close out. The outcome is the 5 of Swords. A lot of pain, a lot of manipulation, a lot of, very unnecessary changes, very painful changes. Maybe even physical abuse for some of these situations. A lot of fighting, okay? A lot of manipulative energy, but naturally that would happen when you have many people that's living amongst one another, who's really jealous of each other, who's envious of one another. That's poison right there. Then you have the death in the reverse, so they end up trying to hold on. Like I saw the tower in the reverse earlier, they end up trying to hold on by a thread here, because I feel like it's all about, at this point, it's all about image. It's all about, because they had many people that probably told them that ain't going to work. You think it's going to work, but I'm telling you now, that looks like a mess waiting to happen. And so they end up creating this abundance for themselves, or creating this image of having abundance to the world. And so now they have to maintain this facade, but behind closed doors, they're giving one another the evil eye. They're, shooting daggers at one another. They can't stand one another. They want, they're hoping that one woman will walk away and that this one will walk away. And it's all about competitive energy, trying to see who's the man going to pick, who is he mostly sexually attracted to, because this is not about love. It's largely driven by the sexual energy, because these women are insecure. And so they feel like this man showing them sexual affection is their idea of maybe being the chosen one, or the preferred one. Like I said, sexually driven. So this is where it goes right back to the Knight of Wands energy. He's in and out right there in his own household. He's running back and forth between one woman to the next, and none of them feel fulfilled emotionally, not even him. And so then we have the Knight of Cups here in the reverse. He's not able to give himself emotionally. A lot of jealous energy there as well. Not able to give himself emotionally. This is just a mess. So this is the energy that I'm picking up on for the polygamous relationships. I hope that this has enlightened you in terms of what's happening with this community. Not all of these relationships are dealing with this, but as you can see, people lie, energy doesn't. I love you all, and I'll talk to you all next time.